Well, good morning, everyone. Thomas Montgomery. It's a beautiful Friday morning. Today is February 20th, 2026. We get together most weekday mornings to talk about funding, business funding. What does it take to get business funding? And to make sure we're all aware of some of the grant subsidized resources that are available to help clients, to help entrepreneurs reach that funding that they want and need. In the background on my shared screen should be the spefunding.com website. This is an important resource because once we were awarded the grant, we were instructed and happily obliged to put everything in one page to make it very transparent of how this grant subsidized program works. So if you go to spefunding.com, scroll down a bit, there's three steps, and it's really intended for anyone that's considering the SPE model, which we'll discuss in a moment, to go through these three steps. A lot of people are busy, a lot of people have a lot on their plate, but this is a big deal. We guarantee a minimum of 250,000 by going through the three-step process. But certainly everyone needs to understand how it works. And so that's described there. As far as our agenda today, we want to discuss kind of an obvious question, but maybe the answer or the discussion isn't so obvious of how do we get a business loan? In my role, I get the opportunity to talk to so many fascinating people on a daily basis. And the common mindset is, I want money, I need money, get me money. Where's my money? But it's it's disregarding the logic of how lenders make approval decisions to think that way. And I would argue that if you and I could help build financial literacy, we need to reprogram people from saying, how do I get money to how do I get fundable? What is it I need to do to have a fundable business? So let's go on and talk about a few key concepts. And at any time you have questions, comments, concerns, type it into the Q&A on the live Zoom. If you're on the live Zoom, if you're listening to a recording, you can always join live Zooms with the registration here. And again, going through these trainings and through these three steps will help you learn a lot. All right, so understand how to get a business loan. As I just inferred, you can't skip this step. You have to qualify. We're not going to scam the system. We're not going to game the system. We're not going to trick some lender. If we want business funding, we need to have the qualifications. Simply stated here, we need to have a fundable business. Now, it is true that depending upon how much money we want, what we're going to use it for, where we're going to get it, the criteria could vary. But in our model, we're going to talk about going after these low interest, very affordable term business loans. Normally, it's a 10-year, 120-month repayment, low interest rates. That's what normal businesses do. Now, are there some other alternatives out in the market? Sure, but the bread and butter of business lending is normally a 10-year term loan, and that's what our discussion is about today. So, if we understand we do need to have a fundable business to get business funding, then we need to start to define, well, what does that mean? So there is actually a formula for funding, and that formula for funding is E plus the three C's. So first we need to have a fundable entity. So we need to have an entity that's in good standing at the federal and state level. Does it have to be of a certain age? No. Does it have to be LLC versus C Corp versus S Corp? No, but we need to have a good, clean, compliant entity. Not real difficult to have, but that's an important ingredient. And then secondly, we need to have the three C's. And the three C stands for credit. Now, in credit, that's a little bit more complicated because there's business credit and personal credit. Most lenders are going to look at both, but there are some that only look at one of the two. Collateral are those assets that we pledge to the lender that in case we don't pay back, that they have something to mitigate their loss. Most traditional loans require collateral, but there are always exceptions. And then capacity. This is the one that's most fascinating to me because people will push back more on this than anything else. Capacity also means cash flow. So essentially, it's sharing with the lender that we have the ability to pay back the loan. Now, we put together financial forecasts, and this is not a discussion about pitching what we do and how we can help, but it's just talking about the basics. But certainly, an applicant could have a financial forecast that shows what's going to happen in the future, and that's part of what we do, but you can do that on your own. That's fine. But that does not replace what many lenders will look for is as of now, before the loan's approved, as of now, do we have enough money to pay the loan payments? And that could come from the current entity. It could come from other businesses owned by the borrower, could come from the borrower's W-2. So, can a pre-revenue business get funding? Yes, it can in certain circumstances. But is it always better, if possible? Not always possible, but is it better, if possible, to have a business that already has enough cash flow coming through to be able to afford the loan payments? Absolutely. And you'll see how our model delivers that in a moment. Now, if we agree that we do need a fundable business to get business funding, then the question is, well, do we have one already? Is the business that the borrower has currently, is it fundable based upon what we've described? If so, great. Then probably all we need to do is just build the loan package, the documentation around it. We're good to go. A lot of times that's not the case. So then if we do want business funding, but we don't have a fundable business, we really only have two choices. It's simple. Do I want to go buy a fundable business, a business that is ready to go to funding, or do I want to build one, whether it be with my current entity or a future entity? Buy or build is the scenario here. What we'll describe to you with the SBE funding is that we can transfer a business. Well, there's no upfront cost, but technically it's the buy option. We can transfer a special purpose entity that has the three C's, that has the loan package to get the funding. But that's not the only way. You could buy or build. That's a conscious decision that each person needs to make. I had a call from a gentleman yesterday, and he had a real strong self esteem, which is fine. And he's like, "Get me money," almost literally like that. Me not just being funny, but pretty much, "Get me money." Well, sir, do you currently have a fundable business? Yes. Okay. Well, let me just ask you a few questions. Then let's just flush through this. How's your business credit? How's your personal credit? How's your business's collateral? How's your current cash flow for your business? Well, the short of it is he in nowhere near had a fundable business, but he didn't know. So he was looking to skip many steps. He ended up coming aboard and he's going to use the SPE and we'll have him funded in less than 30 days. But the point is, we do need to have a fundable business. There's a definition for that, a formula for that, and we can either buy or build one if we don't have it. And then that's where the SPE program came in. We have spent years and years trying to perfect the model to really serve two different masters, if you will. We have entrepreneurs that want and need funding, so that's our primary focus, but also there's lenders on the other side of the transaction. And if we can get lenders the type of businesses they want to loan money to, that pay them back, then they're happy. So there's a bit of a balancing in the role that we're in. We need clients that get funding, but we need to work with clients in such a way that the lenders want to work with them and work with us. So the SPE program, I believe, delivers that. And again, the detailed training is over here on SPE funding. But the beautiful thing is it'll never be a financial barrier, I don't think, because there is no out-of-pocket cost. Not free, not free, but it's paid after the funding, after financing. So certainly the detailed information is on SBE funding. There's no way in just a few minutes in a morning session I can get you all the information that sits over here, but we can summarize it and certainly answer your questions. And that's our primary reason for being here is to answer questions, hopefully after you've watched this. To participate, we were getting text this morning from a gentleman and it just didn't click with him. So, he wanted to participate. Well, go through the three steps. And literally on step three, right here, there's a link and we click on it and it pops up. It gives us an overview flyer, which reiterates the value proposition. And then there's a simple one-page application. Here's Julian. Julian just put on the Zoom. He doesn't know what to do. Well, Julian, I'm literally showing you and everyone else what to do. Three steps. Go through three steps. On the third step, where it says click here, Julian, you're going to want to click here, right? And it's going to bring this up. That's literally what I'm showing you right now, Julian. Read this, just highlights how it works, and then fill out this one-page application, Julian, and anyone else. The top half is business information. It says it's optional. If you have it, fine. If you don't have some of it, leave it blank. It's okay. They're not required fields. And then at the bottom, it's key person. We do need information about a given individual. Some people say, well, what if I don't have a business? That's fine. What if I don't have good credit? That's fine. We just had a training yesterday where we talked about we provide cosigners, and that training actually has been added right here. So there's not excuses. It'll work for anyone. We just need you to be able to follow those three steps. All right, so let's go back to our talking points here. All right, and then we do have daily Zooms, and our daily Zooms that we have this morning are based primarily around answering questions. And so there's just no way in a short time we can get everyone from no knowledge to having thorough knowledge. That's what the purpose of the resource site is. And then if you have individual questions that for your own account, like Julian seems to, then our phone number is right here. Call it. It's answered live. And there's some instances where everyone's on the phone, so then just leave a message and we'll call you back. All right, so with that, my focus for the rest of our time together is to answer your questions. What is it that you need to know if you're someone that's looking for funding to start or grow a business? It needs to start with you being sure that you understand what it takes to get funding. This is a very high-level overview. There's details, again, on these trainings that I encourage you to go through. And because of the grant, we're expecting you to go through those. And then if you'd like to participate, which I can't imagine why you wouldn't, on step three, click here to get started, and it brings up this packet here that I just reviewed. Then normally what will happen is normally within 24 hours, we will get you your first tranche offers, your first round of funding offers. Everyone receives at least one offer. Many people receive many. One of our funding attorneys, typically Valerie, will reach out to you, go through with you the funding offers that you have so we can get started on getting that SPE set up for you. As is described on the flyer, no upfront cost. The first thing that we're going to do, there is a deposit. There is a deposit, but it's not paid out of pocket. It's paid out of financing. There is a license fee for the way the model works. Do you have to pay that up front? No. Do you have to pay that out of pocket? No. It's paid out of financing. So the bottom line is we're promising a minimum of $250,000 in funding. And from that, you're going to pay us $25,000, not beforehand, but after paying out of financing, out of funding. Julian's popping away a bunch of postings and says that he may need a cosigner. Well, that's great. We provide cosigners for free, Julian. We just had a training on that yesterday that we've already put up here. So if someone needs a cosigner, that is fine. That is not a problem. We still start the same way, right? We go through the three steps, fill this out. Well, click on this, fill this out, simple application, and we're off and running. So, what questions do any of you have that we can assist you with today? We get together daily, but we can't, as I've stated before, it's really crucial for you to understand how business finance works. And this is a legal, ethical, but it's an advanced. It's a non-traditional model. So it is important that you understand how it works. But the bottom line is if you know someone that's looking for funding to start or grow a business, this is at least an option they should consider. No out-of-pocket cost. It's designed legally and ethically. It guarantees a minimum of 250,000, but it's a remarkable program once you understand it. All right, so let's see what other questions we have here. It looks like Christopher is asking on timelines, and then that's a fair question. People usually want to know how much does it cost? Well, I've showed you it doesn't cost anything out of pocket. Out of the 250,000 you raise, you'll pay us 25,000 after funding, after financing. So you're going to net 225,000. Next question we often get is, well, what if I need more than 250,000? We can repeat the process multiple times. Next question, which is a question Christopher had, is how long does it take? So from the time that you come over here, complete these 3 steps, click on this, which brings up this, fill out the funding app. Again, no minimum credit scores. Everyone gets approved. Even if you don't have a business, leave that blank. Normally, within 24 hours from filling this out, we can get you offers. And again, we have offers for everyone, so no one will be declined, no one will be turned down. That doesn't mean you get approved for every loan or every lender, but you'll get approved by at least one financing option. At that point, what happens? We need 7 days to build the feasibility study. And you might say, feasibility study, I don't want that. I don't need that. Well, actually, you should want that, and you do need that, but you may not understand that once you go through this training. And I think it's this training here that goes at the bottom of step 2 that teaches you why feasibility data is important. I guess my word of caution is just because someone doesn't know something doesn't mean that it's true. It just may mean that they don't know it yet. So, what we're trying to do is train, educate, build financial literacy of what it really takes to have a successful capital raise. And then we built that all very conveniently with no out of pocket cost to help you do so. All right, let's see what other questions we have here. Tubex has a question asking about uh, paying the debt. Well, that's a great point. So, if the goal is to go borrow money, the anticipation is obviously that you should pay it back because that's what you've agreed to. That's what the lender is expecting. So, how do we pay a debt? That's an interesting question. Tubex asks, well, how do you pay back a debt? Well, you're a business owner. We're not looking at this as consumer finance. So if you own a business, it should sell some good or service to a customer solving a problem they have, and they pay you, and that's called revenue or sales. And then, of course, there's going to be expenses to run any business, but hopefully you have more revenue coming in than expenses going out, and that's your profit. Of course, one of the expenses that you would have would be your debt repayment. So in the SPE model, we have everything built for you. It's ready to go. We've got the business plan and the financial projections. It's all built and ready to go, and it's built to be lucrative and financially successful and be able to afford the debt. If Tubex, you're wanting to do something different, a unique custom build, we can help you with that. What our primary focus, though, is most people aren't like YouTubex. Most people just want fast, simple, and free and easy. So the SPE is very convenient, easy, fast. There's really not much input you need to put into it. If in contrast, you wanting us to work with you to build a fundable business, then there will be a lot of your time and involvement because now we're doing something that's not what we normally do, but something that you specifically want to do. But the good news is the SPE prepackaged, ready to go. And again, if that doesn't make sense, I think you can understand it by going through these trainings. All right. Aziz ask, I don't exactly understand, but maybe we can close on this. So with the model that we have, our primary focus is getting these special purpose entities into entrepreneurs' hands and then using that for a quick, fast, guaranteed capital raise, legally and ethically. That's the bottom line. But you do have some sophisticated people that don't want to use the standard model. They want something special. They want something different. They want a one-off, and that's what we call a build. So can we help them build a fundable business? Sure. It's almost always going to take longer. It's going to almost always require out-of-pocket cost, and it's almost always going to have volatility. But we can do that. But I would recommend maybe not. Let's at least get started with the SPE. It's packaged, it's ready to go. Again, if you don't fully understand that, that's where we'll cover the learning curve here. All right, so with that, we'll wrap up as we normally do a little bit early on Fridays. We'll be back on Monday. Bring your questions, bring your comments, bring your concerns. If you're like Julian and you have individual questions about your enrollment, your client status, call 903-352-3390, shown here at the bottom of the website. Alternatively, if you're someone that's looking to possibly participate, you really need to start with this training. Click here and then fill this out. And then one of our funding attorneys, most likely Valerie, will be picking up the phone and calling you and then helping you individually. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you back Monday morning and have a great weekend. Bye bye.